Welcome to the Circular Economy Show by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, where we develop and promote the idea of a circular economy, engage key actors to make it happen, and mobilise system solutions at scale. My name is Rob, and I'll be your host in today's episode. We have an exciting topic to explore as we dive into the role that digital platforms play in enabling circular economy innovations. We'll be hearing from the CEO of Kudoti, Matthieu de Gaudemar, a digital platform based in South Africa that is working across the value chain to build a truly circular economy. And they achieve this by facilitating the connections between manufacturers, waste collectors, and recyclers. But before we do that, we're going to head over to the US to hear from Garry, the CEO of Rheaply, a resource management and exchange platform that helps world-leading organizations to better visualize, quantify, and utilize their physical assets, such as office chairs, desks, and even lab equipment. Here's a snapshot of a conversation that I had with Garry.
So Rheaply is a Chicago-based technology company that helps organizations scale circular operations. The way we do that is we kind of morph or evolve their current resource management or asset management practices into kind of a platform that employees use to reuse things that the company's already procured, as opposed to buying things kind of new from the market. There's this really hairy problem that the working world has where the right hand doesn't know what the left hand has. That creates waste, and it actually creates suboptimal operations. And so our technology kind of solves that for individual business. But then taking that to the next level, we then connect all of our customers in an ever-growing ecosystem. So when a business no longer needs any physical item, whether it be packaging, whether it be a piece of equipment, they can donate it, rent it, or sell it to another organization in their community, thereby kind of creating kind of more systematic reuse. So that's what Rheaply does at its core. We've been doing that since 2015. And I'm happy to lead the charge there. So imagine an asset management system, something that's keeping track of all the things that you purchased, or at least the capital expenditures, how much they're worth today, when you need to service them. Almost kind of like a more beautiful spreadsheet. We have that on our back end. That typically is a system unto itself. But what Rheaply has done is add on its front end something that looks like a more beautiful version of an eBay type functionality. So admins have this ability to track all the things they normally would track with a typical asset management system, although way easier and I think more fun. I'm the CEO, I have to say that, but I also believe it. But on the front end, for all the other tens of thousands of employees at an organization, they can log in and share, packaging material that they no longer need anymore. They can share equipment that they no longer need anymore with other employees. And then the business is now able to track embodied carbon savings, waste savings, embodied value savings, a la cost savings, and then how much waste you're diverting to the landfill. And then the thing that we do that's kind of special is that we gamify this whole activity for the individual employee. In fact, at Rheaply, you get green for being green. So every month at every organization that we partner with, one of the top point getters, you can see how much points you have on the homepage of the platform as an employee, and you get those points for diverting waste and saving money for the company. Each month, we give away a $400 or $500 Visa gift card to the top point-getting employee.
So it's a platform that is helping businesses find value in their unutilized assets. And so
Totally.
Could you possibly break down how that contributes to the circular economy then, please?
Yeah, so in the canonical definition of the circular economy, the second bullet is about keeping materials in use as long as possible. And so one of the ways that we do that is by making sure that those items are visible to employees who can use them more. And if they're not if they're not usable by those employees, they can be thus visible by people in the community. So we think about the kind of the ownership model of how companies think about assets. It's not really about ownership, it's really about access. And so we want to give access through our technology to these items, whether the company can use them or they cannot. So that's really about reuse, really about scaling reuse at organizations, and really honing in kind of on that second bullet of the canonical definition of a circular economy.
Great. So you're keeping products and materials in use and eliminating waste. what is the role specifically of reuse?
So, there's a lot of push to reduce our spend and reduce our consumption. That is just table stakes. We have to do that. We can't do that in every area. And we can't recycle our way out of, or we can't recycle our way to net zero waste. And so what Rheaply is really focused on is the reality. How do we take the materials that we already have right now and reuse them, not recycle them, reuse them more as to reduce the amount of new things that we have to procure or consume or to build. And so we really, really, really focus in on the reuse. In fact, at rheaply.com/reuse, we have a lot of free, kind of material that people can read and learn a little bit more about reuse. I think a lot of times when people say recycling, they actually mean reuse. And so a big education that we've kind of embarked on is not really educating people about the circular economy. I think that is going well, actually, from a lot of effort from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. But we've decided to kind of go on this mission about educating people about reuse and how it's so simple, but so impactful to our journeys to kind of get to net zero.
The tech startup space is famously quite crowded, with businesses being spoilt for choice in terms of different platforms and softwares that they can use. Rheaply, however, has experienced some kind of rapid scale growth.
Yes.
What do you think it is about Rheaply as a technology, or even maybe a business model, that has enabled this growth?
Yeah, so Rheaply got its founding in the scientific laboratory. So I'm a PhD neuroscientist by training. I started Rheaply to create more lab share. And from that instance, I knew that one of the most important ingredients about the technology that we were building is that it had to be easily usable, in fact, delightful for users to be using. It had to be engaging, it had to be rewarding, and it had to be something fun. Too many platforms, too many systems are things that consultants have to come into companies and teach people how to use. It's not something that you want to open up every day when you go to work. So one of our big game changes is making things so flatly simple and easy and fun and engaging and individually incentivizing. And I think that's kind of why we've experienced some growth over other similar platforms in the market.
Where do you see Rheaply going, and what will you need to help you make this progress forward?
Yeah, so one of the things that we definitely see is just continuing the work that we've already started, but with an ever-growing, slate of customers and of partners. We Rheaply can't do this all ourselves, so we are looking for leading recyclers and reusers and haulers and things of this nature to work with. One of the things that we're definitely interested in is working with organizations that are customers of ours. So just to give you an example of that, Microsoft's Climate Innovation Fund just led an inter-series round at Rheaply. We're one of their first direct investments. Microsoft is also a customer of Rheaply. MIT also joined that round formally through their MIT Solve Innovation Fund. MIT is also a customer of Rheaply. So we're really interested about building a circular working world, at least, with people who've been backing us as customers and now backing us as investors and helping us get into the worlds that they also have a lot of influence. So we're super excited about working with people who we are serving.
Brilliant. Thank you, Garry. It sounds incredible, and all the best for the future.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, Rheaply maximizes the utilization of an organization's assets, making it an example of how digital platforms can help us circulate products and materials, keeping them in use for longer at their highest value. The circular economy is built on two additional principles: eliminate waste and pollution, and regenerate nature. Let's look at how digital platforms are helping us prevent materials and resources from ending up in landfill or being incinerated. Turning to South Africa, we have a conversation between my colleague Laura Franke-Henau and the CEO of Kudoti, Matthieu de Gaudemar. Kudoti is a digital platform building connections across the value chain. In this conversation, they discussed why Kudoti was created and how Kudoti works.
So Kudoti is a tech startup. We're based in Johannesburg, South Africa. So we have a focus on South Africa and more broadly on emerging economies. And specifically, what we work on is developing the circular economy through better supply chains. So we've actually come to the realization, or through research and doing a lot of testing in the recycling industry, that one of the key problems around circular economy is actually the lack of supply chains that enable the efficient flow of goods and materials back into production from consumption. So that's really what we're looking at Kudoti, and we have really a tech focus, given that we believe that technology actually will be one of the great enablers for building these supply chains and reducing the complexity around them. So today we operate in South Africa, in Zambia, and in India. We run a marketplace type platform where waste collectors, waste aggregators, and recyclers can trade recyclable materials between each other. That's the core of our activity. We have parallel activities where we're essentially looking to interconnect the entire ecosystem for waste management and recycling through digital solutions and data collection.
Thank you. And we're going to come back a little bit more about how it works. But I just wanted to take a step back, because in a circular economy, recycling, we often describe it as the loop of last resort. Because it's, it still consumes a lot of energy, and it's still quite wasteful. So I wanted to ask you, why are you focusing on recycling at Kudoti?
Yeah, it's a super interesting question. It's something that we ourselves think about a lot. Because you're right. I mean, if we look at the hierarchy of what a circular economy should be, we're looking really at reducing and reusing products and materials before we recycle them. And I think we certainly agree with that view and that hierarchy. But I think the reason that we've really moved towards enabling better recycling in emerging economies, there are a variety of factors, but I'll focus on the main one. And I think it starts with actually looking at these emerging economies and what needs to be done in a relatively pragmatic way. And to consider that actually, one of the largest problems that we're facing in these countries, and that's true in Africa, in Asia, in South America as well, to a significant extent, is that a lot of waste is flowing uncontrollably into the environment. So when we look at this problem, it became clear to us that actually one of the most effective ways of targeting this problem in the short term, and I mean effective both in a cost perspective and a time perspective, is actually to enable recycling and actually incentivize the collection of waste through recycling mechanisms. And I mean, if we think about it through an analogy, we're essentially looking at building that safety net that will significantly reduce the flow of waste into the environment. Now, that's the priority, and I think that in the short term remains the priority, and that's why recycling is important. I think once we've built that safety net, and once we have kind of managed to make an impact in that flow, in the reducing the flow of waste towards the environment, I think that is where we can start looking at actually building up on top of that and actually building the circular economy through implementing different blocks, such as looking at reusing certain products and actually reducing the amount of waste that we produce.
Let's say I am a company and I want to use the Kudoti platform. So how does it work?
Right. So fundamentally, the platform works in a very simple way. We essentially work with companies, whether they're producers, collectors, or aggregators of waste, and we want to understand what the waste volumes that are available at these companies are. So what the volumes look like, what types of materials they are. And so essentially through our platform, companies can actually add data, input data into their waste supply. And we treat it almost like an inventory in an e-commerce sense of what is actually available. And from that data, we then are able to understand what the supply looks like, and our work through technology is to actually match that supply to the demand. So we actually work on the other side of understanding who is in need of certain recyclable materials, who is actually purchasing them. We're also looking at the price points. Obviously, this only makes sense if it makes economic sense. Although that does change in some cases where actually we can enable a cost reduction on the cost of managing waste if we can actually find value for it somewhere else. So, but very fundamentally, we're essentially connecting the supply and the demand. Both sides have access to our platform. They can, on the supply side, we actually show, what the market looks like, what the pricing is, who actually needs the waste. And then on the buy side, we do the opposite of that, and we actually give an idea of what the supply looks like.
And you've mentioned in the beginning that you work in South Africa, but also in India. So different contexts with probably different regulations around waste. What have been some of the biggest learnings, especially since you are a company that analyzes and collects a lot of data?
Right. So I think that probably the biggest learning is the fact that if you give people the right incentives, behavior change can happen, and can actually happen relatively fast. I think that's true in the recycling context, where in South Africa and actually in most emerging economies, you have quite a widespread economy for waste, in the sense that people are buying and selling recyclable materials, and that has actually driven the collection of waste to a pretty significant extent. I mean, it's I think one just anecdotal data point here, which I find interesting, is that South Africa actually recycles more materials than a lot of more developed countries, because there is that economy and that incentive for actually collecting and giving value to waste. So I think what's really key to take away from this is that we need to create the right incentives, the right environments for people, and actually for businesses as well, to change how they operate and change the way that they run their companies.
So we've just heard how Kudoti is an example of a digital platform achieving the eliminate waste and pollution principle of the circular economy. And it does this by acting as a matchmaker for stakeholders throughout the value chain. In this episode, we've heard 2 examples of how digital platforms are providing organizations with ways to eliminate waste and pollution and circulate products and materials. But there are many, many more examples out there. If you'd like to get involved, please take a look at the startup sign-up form, which you can find a link to in the chat box. If you've enjoyed this episode, please do like and share it with your network, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on LinkedIn or Facebook. That way, you'll be notified every time we go live. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.